Hello all, this is John from EastCoastArmory.com, and I'm here today with a compare and contrast video for M4 Sherman tank front transmission mount. I found it interesting in that currently I'm working on two styles of Shermans. One style has the more early war style transmission cover, and the other is the opposite end of the spectrum, which is the final transmission cover variant, which is found on the M4 Sherman tank production run. The unit on the left is a early war style 3-piece transmission cover. This unit itself is from an Armortech M4A4 5C Firefly, and this particular unit will be installed onto a tank, which will be showcased in an upcoming video series on my channel. As for the transmission cover on the right, this is the plastic M4A3 Sherman tank kit from Dragon. The kit is 1/6 scale, and this is also another subject matter of a video series that I have on my video listings. Like I mentioned earlier, as well as in my other YouTube Sherman videos, the Sherman featured several different designs of the final drive, or of the transmission cover, throughout its production run. This one here is what you would see on very early war style Shermans, and this one here is from what you would find on mid to late war Sherman tanks. The early war M4 Sherman tank transmission cover is a 3-piece flange design and featured integral casted toe eyes. The toe eyes were only single loop and would be facilitated by a large U-hook. While on the single piece design, the flanges were eliminated. The piece was a single casted unit, and the toe hooks on this version were that of a dual design, which utilized a thinner and thicker integrally cast toe high loop. Now, these are just two examples of the two of the most prolific versions of the transmission cover. The Sherman featured about 3 or 4 different designs. Mainly, most of the designs were that of the solid type. Those themselves had different angles as well as different armor thicknesses. Also, the one thing that's easy to tell them apart is that some of them only have one loop mounted here on the front transmission cover as opposed to the 2 loops. The one with the single loop would have came in between these two. Both transmission covers are the exact same dimensions, and both transmission covers are compatible with each other. They are totally interchangeable, and you can swap out the different transmission covers if one tank were to be knocked out, and you could salvage parts from it, which was pretty common in the field. The design of the 3-piece transmission cover itself is a carryover from the M3 Lee. And that tank also features several other components that are interchangeable with this unit here, namely these 2 flange mechanisms of the transmission. The one reason why this design was abandoned was in favor of a single cast piece was that it was easier to cast the unit as one hollow object as opposed to having 3 separate molds, as well as machining time that would have to be required to line up all the holes for the flanging mechanism. Also, if we notice, the single piece is also a thicker armored piece compared to the 3-piece unit. Because of the way it's casted, there's more armor integrally casted into this portion here, as opposed to the rounded off section here of the 3-piece. In addition to thicker armor protection, the single piece also features more of a sloped appearance, which also helps with deflecting of any rounds that were to hit this component here. The 3-piece, in comparison, was commented in having a shot trap located on these 2 corners here of the side blisters. Having said that, both units were able to serve the equipped vehicles very well, and Shermans have a long history as well as a reputation of being very reliable and very easy to maintain. Unlike German tanks, which don't have any accessibility for the front transmission, in which you would have to pretty much disassemble the whole tank in order to take out the transmission, on the M4 Sherman series, you simply remove the bolts here on the top of the strip, as well as another row of fasteners along the side of the transmission cover, and the whole unit would just come out as one complete pack. One difference between the two designs is that the way the drainage plug system is arranged. On the three-piece cover, you can drain the transmission fluid from a small drainage plug here, one on the reverse side, another one on the bottom portion of the bell housing, and then each flange mechanism also features one, and the center one features two more drainage removal plugs. This is in contrast to the single-piece transmission cover, in which that unit only features two drainage plugs on the two bell housings that are integrally casted. Obviously, these two drainage plugs are a direct carryover from the design found on the earlier unit. Another feature that came into effect on the later version of the transmission cover is that of the small little footsteps, which you see here that are welded to the front toe shackle mounts. These Footman Loops here are actually a factory installed piece and were fitted in the factory. If you notice, they have a small little bend to them, and that is typical of these units that you see fitted to these vehicles. Now, these foot loops were several different styles before you see the one here. This is the most later style design, and it's probably one of the more prolific. However, there was a design that came before this one here, in which this little piece of steel was an integrally casted little shelf, and it was a solid lump of steel that would have been in this location here. It had a similar shape, but instead of a thin piece of metal welded to it, it was just an integral glob of metal. You can, if anyone's working on a Dragon Sherman and they would like to have that version of the transmission cover, that is an accurate representation, and you would have to fabricate this component probably out of plastic or some kind of a bodywork. And that concludes this compare and contrast video for 1/6 scale M4 Sherman tank front transmission covers. If you like this video, stop by and like us on Facebook, and don't forget to check out eastcoastarmory.com for more 1/6 scale tank builds, as well as other 1/6 scale detail components. Thank you.